After a car accident wiped out my memory, I forgot about Michael Carter and started dating a struggling college student. His name was Will Sanders. He was gentle and quiet, but when we were together, I never had to make the first move for holding hands or hugs. My friends would see us and just laugh. Girl, have your fun, but don't take it too far. I rested my chin on my hand, thought about it and said honestly, I'm serious. I really like him. I'll invite you all to our wedding. Everyone's faces froze that night. Someone took a red-eye flight and showed up at my door in the pouring rain. It was Michael Carter, someone I hadn't seen or heard from in 7 years. My friend Emma showed me photos before, but I genuinely didn't remember Michael. So when I saw this tall guy at my door, wearing a black mask, so wet from the rain, I asked uncertainly, wrong address. He didn't answer. His dark eyes locked onto mine. His whole presence, cold and threatening. His height made it even more intimidating. I took small step back. If you're looking for Will Sanders, he went back to campus. You should contact him directly. I was about to close the door when he let out a mocking laugh. Seriously, Emma, you forced me to fly back here. And now you're pretend and you don't know me? His voice was rough, filled with emotions. He was barely holding back. I froze, suddenly remembering what Emma told me about the person I'd forgotten. Through the half-closed door, I stared at his rain-soaked face for a long time, trying to match it with the teenager in the photos. Finally, in the endless rain, I opened the door. I hesitantly said, that strange name Michael. Since I lost my memories, everything I knew about Michael came from Emma. She said he was bold and charismatic, the most popular guy at school. He wasn't great at studying and sometimes got into fights, but girls loved him because of his looks. And I was completely crazy about him. When she got to that part, she couldn't help but nudge me. By the way, I was really rooting for you two back then. Was I in a relationship? Well, not officially, but pretty much everyone knew you two were a thing. Oh, I said. Then what happened? You guys had a fight. Then Michael's parents got divorced, and he left for London with his mom without saying a word. That was the end. Even though she used a heartbroken tone for those last words, I felt nothing. Emma saw my blank expression and couldn't help asking, don't you want to know why you fought? Why did we fight? I asked, following her lead. I don't know, she said. Honestly, you never told me. I was speechless. Based on what Emma said, Michael and I were basically exes. I didn't know the right way to treat an ex, but it definitely wasn't what I did. I drove back to my parents' estate, leaving him alone at my place, telling the housekeeper, Mrs. Davis, to take care of him. My parents knew about Will for a while now. They had an open marriage, so they weren't surprised about me dating someone. They just reminded me to be careful about how public I was about it. When I got home that evening, Mrs. Davis said, Michael didn't even drink the ginger tea she made him. He just left in the rain. Did he say anything? I asked. No. Mrs. Davis shook her head. I didn't dwell on it and went straight upstairs. The bedroom was quiet. Will was wearing a simple white t-shirt, his long, pale fingers holding a glass, his eyes on his laptop screen. I tiptoed in, ready to surprise him. But the next second, he turned his head and caught me. I froze. Our eyes met. I went on the offense. Why didn't you play along? He thought about it and gave in. Okay, fine. I continued sneaking up behind him. Well, he played along perfectly, even asking, when did you get back? I didn't even notice. I grinned and put a box in his lap. Good job. Here's your reward. What is it? Suit I bought you. Go try it on and show me. Almost all of Will's clothes were things I bought him. That face of his looked good. In anything. I loved this dress-up game. Even with his messy hair, the pure white suit fit him perfectly, making him look tall, refined and elegant. Well, you look amazing in white suits. My eyes sparkled as I handed him gold-rimmed glasses. He put them on and reminded me gently, Emma, you don't need to buy me new ones. I already have plenty of suits. But this one looks great. You have your thesis defense in a couple days. Wear this. Your game development is incredible. You're handsome. You'll blow everyone away. He looked at himself in the mirror, then at my excited face and smiled. Okay, do you have plans after the defense? There's a gathering. He paused. But I can cancel. Come watch racing with me. I haven't been in forever. Without needing any explanation, he agreed. He was always like this. Whatever I asked, he said yes. Whatever I wanted, he was fine with it. I asked him about it once. He said seriously, it was his duty as a boyfriend. September brought perfect weather. The racing event on the hillside was just entertainment for rich kids. Lots of familiar faces showed up. I usually brought Will to parties and no one reacted much. Like everyone assumed I was just messing around. But today, when they saw Will next to me, their expressions changed and they started whispering. I heard Michael's here today. This is gonna be drama. Not really drama. Michael would destroy this guy easily, even though he's been gone 7 years. That childhood connection runs deep. The voices weren't loud, but I heard them clearly. I instinctively looked at Will. He showed no reaction, like he wasn't listening, just quietly holding my hand with his eyes lowered. So I relaxed. Even though it wasn't a professional race, I got really into it, cheering until my throat was dry. Will handed me water at just the right moment. After the race ended, there were still some sports cars around. These people seemed ready to street race, with pretty girls in all the passenger seats. Someone asked if I wanted to join. I waved them off. We waited quietly nearby. Suddenly, an engine roared. Someone started their car. I turned instinctively to look. A red sports car, like an enraged beast, started at Will at 110 miles per hour. The high beams were blinding. He raised his hand to shield his eyes. Gasps erupted around me. Holy shit. Isn't that Michael's car? He just got back, and he's already doing this. But he's too close. He's gonna cripple the guy. He'll just pay him off. My pupil shrank. My head buzzed. I couldn't even react. The next second, wind rushed past. Tires screeched against, and the car missed Will by inches. It was pure provocation. Will. My trembling voice was lost in the wind. Everything happened in an instant. I ran toward him, my steps frantic. The car door opened. A tall man stepped out, leaning against the car, amusement in his eyes as he looked down at Will's disheveled state. Can't even handle that. He laughed mockingly, his contemptuous gaze landing directly on me. Looks like your taste has really gone downhill. He deliberately used that distant way of addressing me. This was the first time I really saw Michael's face clearly. He had an aggressive look with sharp, cold features when his thin eyelids lowered. There was a natural dominance that warned people to stay away. But I didn't care about any of that right now. Thankfully, Will only scraped his hand. I helped him stand up, furious. Michael, are you insane? Apologized to him. Michael shrugged, casually smiling. He's just a toy. Why are you getting so worked up? Are you going to apologize or not? I was fuming. He crossed his arms, still smiling, looking at me leisurely. Apologize to a toy? Are you seriously? Boyfriend? I cut him off. His fingers stopped, tapping his arm. His smile faded slightly. Right now, apologize to my boyfriend. I took a deep breath and stared at him. Seriously. The silence on the hillside was suffocating. The smell of burnt rubber and expensive gasoline hung in the air like a physical weight. Michael Carter stood there, silhouetted against the dying sunset, looking every bit the prince of chaos he had apparently been 7 years ago. Boyfriend. Michael repeated the word as if it were a foreign language he found distasteful. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Will and me. You've spent 7 years waiting for me to come back, and this is the placeholder you chose? A charity case in a white suit. My hand trembled as I gripped Will's arm. He isn't a placeholder. And you aren't a king, Michael. You're a stranger who almost committed vehicular manslaughter. Will, who had been silent the entire time, finally moved. He brushed the dust off his trousers with a slow, methodical grace. His hand was indeed scraped, a raw red welt blooming against his pale skin. He looked up, his gold-rimmed glasses catching the light. To my surprise, there was no fear in his eyes. There wasn't even anger. There was only a profound, chilling boredom. Your brakes are slightly misaligned, Will said, his voice quiet but steady. You pulled to the left when you swerved. For a car that expensive, you should take better care of the mechanics. Michael's eyes narrowed. He expected a plea, a fight, or a retreat. He didn't expect a technical critique. You've got a lot of nerve for someone whose tuition probably costs less than my tires. Michael, stop. I stepped between them. Leave. Now. Michael stared at me for a long beat. The mockery in his eyes flickered, replaced by a flash of something raw. Hurt, perhaps, or obsession. This isn't over. Emma told me you forgot. I didn't believe her until I saw your face at the door. But I'll make you remember, Ava. I'll make you remember everything. He hopped back into his car, the engine roaring like a wounded beast, and tore away into the darkness. The next few days were a blur of unease. Will remained the perfect gentleman. He didn't ask about Michael, didn't complain about his hand, and spent his nights hunched over his laptop, working on his game engine. But I was restless. I went to Emma. Why didn't you tell me he was like that? I demanded, pacing her living room. He's a bully. He's arrogant. He almost hit Will with a car. Emma sighed, stirring her coffee. I told you he was bold. That's just Michael. He's always been obsessed with you. When his parents divorced and he was forced to go to London, he lost his mind. He tried to get you to run away with him. You refused. That was the fight. I refused. You were 18, Ava. You had a life here. He wanted to burn the world down just to keep you in the ashes. You told him he was toxic. Emma looked at me seriously. But you also cried for 6 months after he left. You only stopped when the accident happened. I sat down, my head throbbing. My current life with Will was a calm sea. My past with Michael was a hurricane. That afternoon, I returned to my apartment to find it filled with flowers. Not roses but white lilies, the kind used for both weddings and funerals. There was no card, only a small, vintage silver lighter sitting on the coffee table. I picked it up. My thumb brushed a set of initials engraved on the bottom, A&M. Suddenly, a flash of a memory hit me. A dark alley behind the school. The smell of rain and smoke. A boy, Michael, flicking that same lighter, his eyes burning as he looked at me. If you won't leave with me, I'll never let you forget me. I'll be the ghost in every room you enter. I dropped the lighter as if it had burned me. The day of Will's thesis defense arrived. I dressed in a simple, elegant navy dress, wanting all the focus to be on him. Will looked spectacular in the suit I'd bought him. He looked like a young tech mogul, though he still carried that quiet, struggling student humility. The university hall was packed. Will's project was a revolutionary AI-driven rendering engine. As he stood on stage, the light from the projector illuminating his sharp features, I felt a surge of pride. Then, the back doors of the auditorium swung open. Michael Carter walked in, flanked by two men in dark suits. He didn't sit down. He stood at the back, arms crossed, a smirk on his face. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. People started whispering. Will didn't falter. He finished his presentation with a level of brilliance that left the professors speechless. During the Q&A session, Michael raised his hand. A nice little toy, Michael said, his voice echoing. But let's be real. A struggling student doesn't develop this kind of tech without a backer. How much of this did you steal from the open-source libraries of Carter Industries? The room went silent. It was a baseless, career-ending accusation. I stood up, ready to scream, but Will beat me to it. He adjusted his glasses and looked directly at Michael. Carter Industries? Will asked softly. You mean the company currently facing a hostile takeover by the SN Group? The company that hasn't seen an innovation since your father retired? Michael's smirk faltered. What do you know about SN Group? I know them well, Will said, a subtle, sharp smile playing on his lips. I own 40% of their shares. I didn't develop this software to get a job, Mr. Carter. I developed it to replace you. The room exploded into murmurs. I sat back down, my heart racing. Will, the struggling student, who lived in a cramped dorm and wore the t-shirts I bought him, was the mysterious founder of the venture capital firm that was currently dismantling Michael's family empire. The gathering, after the defense, wasn't at a cheap bar. It was at the penthouse of the most expensive hotel in the city. I stood on the balcony, looking out at the skyline, waiting for Will. I felt like I didn't know him at all. Or rather, I realized I had been playing a dress-up game with a man who already owned the wardrobe. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? I turned. It wasn't Will. It was Michael. He looked haggard, the arrogance replaced by a frantic, jagged energy. He held a bottle of scotch in one hand. Go away, Michael. He lied to you, Ava. He played the part of the poor, starving artist just to get close to you. He knew about our history. He knew I was coming back. This whole boyfriend act was a trap to ruin me. Even if it was, I said, my voice cold. He treated me with respect. He didn't try to run me off the road. He didn't treat me like a trophy to be won. I loved you, Michael roared, stepping toward me. He reached out to grab my shoulders, his eyes bloodshot. I went to London and worked myself to the bone so I could come back and buy you the world. And I come back to find you've forgotten me? To find you with him. You didn't want to buy me the world, Michael, I said, a memory finally slotting into place with agonizing clarity. You wanted to buy me. That's why we fought. You tried to force me to drop out of school to follow you. You told me I was nothing without your protection. The memory was vivid now. Michael, 7 years ago, screaming at me in the rain, telling me that if I didn't get in his car, he'd make sure no one else would ever want me. I didn't forget you because of the accident. I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. My brain used the accident as an excuse to bury you. I didn't want to remember you. Michael froze. The bottle slipped from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. Ava. Will stood at the balcony door. He was no longer wearing the glasses. His expression was no longer the gentle, passive one I was used to. He looked formidable. Will, or should I call you Mr. Sanders of SN Group? I asked. Will looked at Michael, then at me. He walked over, stepping over the broken glass, and took my hand. His fingers were warm, and despite everything, I didn't pull away. I am a struggling student, Will said quietly. I'm struggling to finish my PhD while running a company I started in a garage 3 years ago. I didn't tell you because I wanted to know if you liked me, or if you liked what I could do for your family's estate. And the playing along. I asked. The suits? The being gentle? I am gentle with you because I want to be, Will said. But I am not a toy, and I don't let people threaten what is mine. He turned to Michael. The takeover of Carter Industries will be complete by Monday. Your father has already signed the papers. You have enough money in your personal trust to live comfortably in London for the rest of your life. I suggest you get on a plane tonight. Michael looked like he wanted to swing at him. But he looked at me one last time. At the way I was leaning into Will. The way I was looking at Will with a mix of anger and burgeoning trust. And he knew he had lost. Not because of money, but because he was a ghost, and Will was the reality. Michael left without another word. The bold, charismatic boy of my youth was gone, replaced by a man who had nothing left but his pride. The balcony was quiet again. The rain began to fall, a light mist that cooled the heated air. You lied to me, I said, pulling my hand away from Will's. I omitted the truth, he corrected. There's a difference. You used me as a shield against Michael. No, Will said, stepping closer, his eyes intense. I used Michael as a catalyst to show you who I really am. I've loved you since the first day I saw you in the library, Ava. Long before I knew who your parents were, or who Michael Carter was. I watched you struggle with your memory, watched you try to piece yourself together, and I wanted to be the piece that finally fit. I looked at him, really looked at him. The dress-up game was over. The man standing before me was powerful, slightly manipulative, and incredibly brilliant. But he was also the man who had held my hand when I was scared, who had listened to my nonsense for months, and who had never made me feel like I was a possession. I'm still mad at you, I said. Will smiled, that same gentle smile that had made me fall for him in the first place. I know. You should be. I'll spend the rest of our lives making it up to you. The rest of our lives? I arched an eyebrow. I believe I promised my friends a wedding. Will laughed, a rich, genuine sound. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He didn't kneel, he didn't need to. He just held it out. An offering of a future built on choice, not obsession. Then we shouldn't make a liar out of you, he said. I looked out at the rain. For the first time since the accident, the past didn't feel like a hole in my head. It felt like a closed book. I reached out, took the box, and more importantly, I took his hand. Michael Carter was a memory I had finally outgrown. Will Sanders was the reality I was choosing to keep. The end.